Hello everyone, welcome to another podcast. I told you they were like buses, wait ages for one and then three come along at once, well, almost at once. In this one I'm going to give you a little bit of a look around the garden. We've got Isla gardening away in the background, so they'll be clanking. We've got the dogs are out here, so they'll be barking. We've got Penny reading, don't know what noise she's going to make, but she might make a noise. Oh no, she just stuck her tongue out at me. I'm blowing a raspberry. So yeah, and there'll be other noise just from being outside. So I wanted to talk to you today mostly about a different form of stitching than my usual knitting, but actual stitching with a needle and thread. When I was up in Scotland last week for my family holiday, I was able to go and see my lovely friend Lindsay, the border Tart, and I did a little podcast recording with her, which is going to be part of this recording tonight, and we had a good laugh. What Lindsay and I both like doing is sort of mindful stitching, nothing too precious or perfect. It's gentle, it's made up as you go along kind of stitching, no rules, no right or wrong way to do it. And I'm going to be showing some of Lindsay's work, getting Lindsay to show some of her work, and I've got some of my own kits, and I'll be putting pre-orders out for particularly my midnight hair kit, which is this one, which actually uses fabric that I bought from Lindsay, the border Tart, only I changed her style up a bit by adding a lot more pieces of lace and actually making a picture of a hare running in a sort of night landscape. You can see all the slow stitching on it, and likewise on the back. My backs aren't anywhere near as tidy as the ones Lindsay's going to show you, but all these pieces have been layered up onto a backing piece of fabric and just stitched as I fancied, and there are stitches that run sort of slanting running stitch up here, which was kind of like the rain. Just bits where I followed the pattern of the fabric, all sorts of bits and bobs. And I really like this, and it's very simple, bit of a plique with the hair. And I'm going to be putting more kits on for pre-order. They're just not physically made up yet, we'll be doing those next week, but I have bags full of beautiful blue fabrics from Lindsay. I have bags full of threads, and I have the fabric for the hair is actually some heavyweight cottony fabric. You can't really see because of the way I've got the light behind me, but I've tea dyed it to age it and add some colour, and it's because it's I haven't over ironed it, so it's got a proper crunkly look to it. I don't think you'll be able to see because of the angle of the camera and the light, but there's a texture to that won't iron out easily, and that's what I wanted. I wanted it to be textural. And then here I have a huge box of lace and ribbon and wonderful pieces that will be going into these kits, and they're just scrummy. You see so many different textures and pieces, and the thing with the ribbons is that side's the proper side of this one. Hang on, like that, but look how fabulous the back is as well, and just how different that makes it look. This is the right side of this with the blue spots, but the wrong side is really lovely. You see it's just got sort of the stitches from behind, likewise that, and you change it, and I like that style where you can have something that really is beautiful on the right way round, but turn it backwards and it has a different kind of beauty on the other side. So again, here, there, that's the wrong side and that's the right side. So lots to play with, and I really like these kits. I really enjoyed making my own, and I really enjoyed putting them together for you. So yeah, that's my midnight hair, and that will be going on the website before I upload this as a pre-order, just to give us time to actually put the kits together. And they come in a box that I can't find. It will either be, it'll be one of these kind of boxes, but I think the midnight hair comes in an A5 size box. The other, I have a couple of my stay home nurture grow kits as well. I'm just putting it against the box so the sun doesn't shine through. And these have little plant pots, lots of different tonal fabrics, kind of to look like flagstones in your garden. And you can stitch, well I did, this was during lockdown when I first started it, and if you look very, very closely you might be able to make out the words running along the sides. Also lots of bits of lace built in and overlaid just to make a sort of textural piece. And one of Ali Hall's beautiful porcelain buttons. So they're a fun project to make as well. And finally, my other stitchy project in the shop is, yes Lotta, you can't go in there, is Alison's design of her allotment. And this is just embroidery, and it's sort of drawing with a needle and thread. So we give you a design that you can trace onto the fabric and just follow the lines with your needle and thread to make this lovely picture. And it can be hung directly in the hoop. I haven't trimmed mine down. And it is an original design by Alison that you could sew into a cushion panel or a bag panel, or just hang on the wall in its hoop. And the way it's made, I'm going to do a little demo, but I'll turn the camera around for that and show you in a second. In fact, I'm going to pause. No, I'll show you the kit. I'll show you the kit first. So in the kit, and it won't be this bashed box, this is just the one I've had at home for ages intending to show you. So in the kit you get your instruction leaflet there, oops, there, and Alison's design drawn out in thick pen, and I'll show you what we're going to do with that. And you get your embroidery hoop, 2 needles, a nice set of embroidery threads, some plain fabric, and some cotton or bamboo. It's certainly a natural blend quilt wadding, and this is what just gives it a bit of stability and stops the thread showing through from the back. And I really enjoy stitching through those layers. So that's what's in your kit with the pattern. And I'm going to do a little video to show you how I would set that up and how I would trace the pattern onto the fabric. So I'll be back in a mo. Okay, so after a series of problems, just checking that is working, after a series of problems, here I am back with the right kind of pen. So what you would do is you would normally have your printed pattern and you would lay it underneath your fabric. You can tape it up to a window, or if you're lucky to have a light box, you can use one of those. The light is so bright you'd think it was easy, but actually I can't see through this in this light. But what I have in the shop are water erasable pens. Now I think the ones I've got in the shop are blue, but they work in the same way. So I can write, whoopsie, can't write. I've really got horrible writing. Hello, everyone. Hyla's saying hello too. Not very clearly. But with this pen, the way it works is that mark will stay on there until you come along with some water and wash it off. And in delightful Lucy style, I'm going to show you the way I do it. Finger, which is a bit funny coloured because of dyeing. Lick my finger. If I put some moisture on there, it's not going to come off very easily. But you can see as I wet it, And if I'd prepared properly, I would have a little dish of water right here to do that with, but I didn't. And I have a cup of tea, and you know what will happen if I stick my finger in my tea and put my tea on my white fabric. The brown mark won't go away, it will just get worse. So as you can see, with a little tiny little bit of lick and my fingertip, I've managed to get that to go away. So it will wash out if you use it, and wash it in some sort of gently soapy water. Gently soapy, that's a new concept. So what you do is draw your flower or whatever. I'm really not very good at drawing flowers. I never seem to get enough petals in. And you could mark out where you might want to put some French knots. Obviously with the kit you'll be tracing Alison's design, which is far nicer than this. Get my words out. You then use your needle and thread to follow these lines. But what I then do is get a layer of quilt wadding, which is included in the kit, and layer my fabric on top, and it just gives a much greater depth and a nicer feel to your finished product. And I've got an embroidery hoop, so you put the small ring underneath. I don't need to show you how to use an embroidery hoop, I'm sure. And squash to hold it taut. You don't need to use a hoop, you can just hold it in your hand, but this way it holds it nice and taut. And then you get yourself a nice tin from Emma Ball with your threads in. And do I have a needle in here? Nope, but I have one just here. I've split my thread into 2 strands. They come actually in 6 strands, but you can open these out. I'm sorry about the state of my hands. And you can see you've got your 6 strands, and all you want for this design is 2. So you pull 2 away and it comes away like that. And this isn't the right needle for this project. It's too blunt, but I've threaded my needle and put a little knot in the back. You can see I've also got mud under my nails. I do apologise. So a very simple back stitch. I don't, even with this type of stitching, I don't seek perfection or tiny, tiny stitches or even perfectly accurate stitches. I just want it to be fun. I want to draw and play with colour and think, which of my colours am I going to pull out now? These are pretty. Which one's next? Because that's the joy of my kind of creativity. It's the simplicity and just gentle enjoyment. And I'm making a proper pig's ear of this because I didn't prepare in advance. So I do apologise, but that's not unusual for me really, is it? It's always a bit chaotic and a bit slapdash. Last minute Lucy, that's the one. So you can go around stitching all of that, and then if you wanted you could do a French knot, but I'm not going to try and attempt that with this needle. It's just not sharp enough. And I am going to unpick this and wash those marks off because I didn't do it very well. But if I get this right in a second. Oh no, I took it inside. Oh no, yep, no. I was going to say here's what I did earlier, but that's gone inside, so I can't even show you. Epic fail, Lucy. Now some of you have been asking me to give you a little bit of a view around the garden. It's still got its all usual bins and warts and all bits, but lots and lots and lots more growing. including an Isla in a flower bed. She's planting a hellebore we bought yesterday. And we have been naughty, we have been buying quite a lot of plants. But it's been making us happy, hasn't it, Isla? Yes. Isla's turquoise hair is making me happy. I think she should do more. So, back door, got a different kind of honeysuckle growing up there. There's a lot of green going on, but we're starting to get colour. And I hope Isla doesn't get eaten by the rhubarb. But lots of fencing, because naughty little Lotta over there. Yeah, you Lotta. Lotta! 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 Yeah. Naughty little Lotta loves climbing in the flower beds and barking at next door. But lots and lots and lots of things growing. And eating everything, yes. Isla's been working very hard. Unless we just keep Isla in the cage. That might also be a good idea. We've got swing seat corner, but lots of sort of twiggy bits. Here's some of the pots, the plants we've been growing from seed or from corms. I can't remember what they are, and we didn't have labels, so we don't know what they are, do we, Isla? No. But we bought some new herbs to go in our herb garden, and they're looking a lot better. And my kind of woven edge is helping hold them in. Isla's got different sorts of macrame. That was Penny running away, holding our swing seat together because it fell apart. It's all very much Heath Robinson around here, I think. Got some pallet fencing. Got some new dyeing on the yarn today. That's what I was doing this morning. Some toadstool yarn for the toadstool socks. This one's going to be called Happenstance, because when I dye toadstool yarn, oopsie, I've tried, it's gone sideways. I tend to put a lot of colours on the skein before it actually goes green. A lot more colour than you would expect. And it's to build the layers, so it's never just a flat colour. You probably can't see because of the sun, but there are lots of shades in that. But when I put this Cabernet shade on here, it looks so pretty with the hits of limey green and turquoise up here that I just thought, no, I've got to keep that. I've got some merino silk and some mini skeins, and then some, oh, you need washing, he's obviously fallen off. Some very pale mini skeins, because what I had to play with was dyeing some Blueface Leicester and silk lace weight in almost mother of pearl colours. Again, you probably can't see in the light, but I think they're going to be very pretty. And I have two naughty little doggies. Butter, what are you doing? And Penny's reading Elena Ferrante. She and I have been reading this series of books. As soon as one of them finishes one, the other one starts it. Got some stuff going on in the greenhouse, but not a lot at the moment. Isla keeps saying, come and plant. I keep saying, but I've got work to do. And then there's our wild tangle of a garden, fenced off for Lotta. But I really like it. It's not tidy, it's not curated, but it's happy. It's what a garden should be, isn't it? Happy. And there's the buddleia, which I hacked back in an earlier podcast. And can you see how much that's grown? I cannot believe there's almost sort of 3 foot of new growth. So yeah, normal everyday family garden with lots going on and lots of bits that don't look good, and then a few bits that do really nicely. But it's certainly not a sort of open garden or anywhere fancy, but it's ours and we love it. And we're very grateful and lucky to have it. So this is what I like about having a family garden. There's Penny there, sitting in the comfy chair reading with Lotta sitting at her feet. Pip's under my table barking. Isla's busy working. There's a mixture of washing and yarn drying on the line. And yep, noisy dogs. And just background noise of living in amongst other people. And I like it. I like going on holiday where there aren't any other people and you can pretend it's all your own secret place. But real life's lovely too. I think we're all very grateful for it after the difficult years we've been having. So, family life in our normal garden. So I've just recorded a little stitching video that may or may not be included in the whole podcast because it was pretty bad. Wrong needle, wasn't prepared, didn't have scissors, generally bit of a mess up. But to lead into the chat with Lindsay, I wanted to show you some of the goodies I bought from her. Lindsay's going to be launching the most gorgeous kit tomorrow, and it wasn't ready when I was with her, and I said, but I want one. You know, total spoilt brat, I want one. So I did sneak away with some early pieces of blue felt, and this is actually blue blanket that Lindsay has dyed, and I'll just give you a little sneaky glance. It's got pretty stitching. I bought extra blanket. I bought some very bright, my kind of green that's very nearly yellow, and I've made a bit of a mess of the beautiful skein of colours I got from Lindsay. But can you see? I know Lucy's doing pink. What is going on? But aren't they pretty? So Lindsay is launching a mandala stitching kit in these beautiful colours, and she's launching it tomorrow, and you're going to love it. So stitching through blanket is just fabulous. I really enjoy it, and Lindsay explains that in her bit of the video why it's so lovely. So I hope you're going to enjoy that. And if you're in Lindsay's shop, or in mine, because I do have some of these in my shop too, check out her beautiful greetings cards. So, I mean, that just makes me so happy. All the reds there, all the different stitching bits and bobs. I like this one because I think of this as yellow. Other people say, oh, that's the green one. I said, it's the yellow one. And then this is the borrow one. Aren't they beautiful? So you can get them from me, or get a better choice and greater quantity from Lindsay herself. And you can find out more about her in the next section of the video. Hello everyone, welcome to another special podcast where I have a guest interviewee who is Lindsay of Border Tart. So while I'm up in Scotland, I've browbeaten my poor friend Lindsay into doing a little bit of a video for us and a bit of an interview. And we're here. See, this is Lindsay. Yeah, about mindful stitching, and Penny's ringing me. Back with Lindsay, who's going to show us some mindful stitching. It's one of the things that Lindsay specialises in, and was going to be coming and doing some workshops with us last year. She's not really this tall. Can we just establish that I'm sitting on a very low stool, looking small and dumpy and willowy. Lindsay.
Nobody's ever called me willowy in my life.
Well, today is the day. I know, all your dreams have come true. So willowy.
No, you're here. That was obviously. Oh, we're not that I touched her.
No, didn't touch her. This is post the lifting of lockdown. We are allowed to be in the same room as each other. We have been sitting much further apart, but I can't fit us both in on the screen. So, Lindsay, mindful stitching is a fabulous thing, and it's something that Lindsay does a lot of and was going to be teaching classes for at Locket, and in the future, hopefully one day will again, but it will be in the future when we feel a lot safer about life, I reckon. So I've been inspired by Lindsay's work to make my own midnight hair kits, and this is kind of like a double promotion. I'm going to promote Lindsay's, and I'll probably release some more of my kits too. So this is the Border Tart. You can go into yarn festivals and yell Tart at the top of your voice at her. I don't know anyone who would do that.
Do you?
And she does respond, but it can be politely. True. So the border tart, blue moon indigo, all together awesome, but she has got some almost yellow on her jumper, and I've worn a lot of blue for her. So over to you.
Thank you. I have absolutely no idea what I'm going to say because it's not scripted, which is possibly just as well. But yes, I do like to stitch, and I really, really like to try to break down barriers and encourage people to pick up a needle and do some very, very simple in and out running stitch in a variety of media, so that they discover for themselves how incredibly relaxing it is. I particularly specialise in saying that there are no rules.
Yep.
You can't make a mistake because there wasn't a rule to be followed in the first place. So if we even look at my borrow type stitching, which I will rattle through my samples and find you.
And borrow is a very ancient Japanese technique, and there are lots of rules and traditions. No,
with respect,
okay.
There are no rules in borrow. There are rules in sashiko, but that's...
But borrow has a lot of traditions, and people can get quite...
Not what we're
precious about
going to get worried about.
But...
So this sort of thing is what I encourage people to start with, which is my take on traditional borrow, without going into this too deeply. The word borrow is Japanese for tatters or rags, and impoverished people in Japan basically had to make do with whatever they could. They wove their own fabrics with hemp, or if they were very lucky, with cotton. They dyed it with indigo because, again, the indigo plants were indigenous. They could do that in the home, and so they were forever repairing their clothing. They had very little. Clearly, if you've got to start with a basic fibre and then spin it and then weave it, everything is very precious and everything takes a long time. And because of the excesses that the fabrics got put to in clothing or in domestic use, they got worn out, they needed patched, they were endlessly patched. And so something that had started out as, say, a jacket for a farmer outside, as it got worn down and layered up with patches and repairs, it would get used and used and used, but gradually, obviously, the fabric still wears out. So it would be cut down and used for a smaller member of the family, and so on and so on. Ultimately, when they were at, practically wrecked, they would be used as floor cloths, and that really was the end. Because they were only ever made of natural fibres, obviously, ultimately, all that returns to the earth. So what is now quite prized are original pieces of borrow, where you can see them. You can see layers and layers of patches, but they will all be in whatever was being woven at the time or had been stolen from another garment or other piece of fabric. So they might have been stripes, they might have been checks, they might have been plain, and they were simply stitched enough to hold them together. Sometimes, clearly, if somebody had a bit more time, they may stitch them into use that stitching itself to make a pattern. So if I hold this up closely, you can see that that's just a checked piece of fabric, but that I chose to do my stitches on it to make a further pattern. And in the piece below it, I've only stitched within the lines, again, to make patterns. But what I try to do is give people a huge big choice of fabrics from all around the world, always in these ones in my trademark blues, and in lots of different sizes, and just encourage them to stitch them into a larger piece by stitching into one piece at a time, so that they can build a wee pattern within that. Doesn't have to be complicated, can be very, very simple. The one I just showed you was almost all done in white stitching, But what I've also done is the likes of that, which is a big pocket on an apron. And you see I got a bit carried away and used lots of red. And this section at the top is some very basic sashiko. And yes, there are rules applying to that about where your stitches go. But that's why there's only a little bit of it, because I'd much rather that people concentrated on
Breaking the rules.
Breaking the rules or not, or pretending there are none at all. And you can imagine, I hope, that say a piece like that, which seen from a distance, you can see that it's stitched, but you can't see in any great detail. So I'm going to hold it up really close and show you the back. And that actually it's just stitched with lots of machine threads.
Does that make it mean that you can see better?
There, you see better.
You can see the light.
So that you can see there are lots and lots of stitches all going the same direction. But I'm not overly worried about whether they're in line or whether they're not. And I hope you can begin to see that actually if your needle is threaded and all you are doing is going in and out and in and out, as your hand makes that movement and your eye follows it, you begin to relax, because there's nothing to worry about. You know what you're doing. You just, it's in the same way that knitting stitch after stitch, provided it's a simple pattern, stitch after stitch is calming because you're in a good place. You can relax into it. There's no particular concentration required in going in a straight line.
Well, I'd say even more so with mindful stitching. With knitting, I mean, I'm a joke about it, but I can walk up hills, I can walk down dales, I can walk around towns, and I can knit, colour work, whatever. I can multitask when I'm knitting. When you're stitching, because your eye also has to look more closely at what you're doing, you're almost engaging another level of focus that takes that focus away from where it might meander off doing other crazy thinking or multitasking. So to stitch, it's not just the hand movement, but you're having to concentrate enough to see where you're stitching, and just trying to get your stitches to the similar sort of length involves another level of focus. No?
Yeah. Yes, I don't worry too much about variations in stitch length.
No, I didn't. I don't. But you do on that one.
or even if they go in a straight line. But you do develop a rhythm, and yes, obviously, so that you don't pierce yourself or pierce the fabric in totally the wrong place. You are looking at it as well, and you're quite right. That takes, again, that because you're focused there, your focus cannot be on too many other worrying things at the same time, and.
Can you focus on the fact that I'm stealing something? She's looking at you guys.
Samples are now walking away from me, apparently.
Oh, stunning. Yeah, so if you guys distract Lindsay, keep her focus on talking to you, and I'm just going to make off with all the treats in her workroom, which she's not going to notice, except I just told her.
Except you just told me, and indeed everybody else.
Fully accountable.
But minor detail. What I've also like to introduce people to is stitching into blanket, because stitching into blanket is like stitching into butter. There's no resistance. It's a really nice thing to stitch into if you've got arthritic fingers or find it difficult to hold things for too long. You get to use a bigger needle. This is always good. You get to use a bigger variety of weights of thread or indeed yarn to stitch with. So for example,
these are beautiful.
Said she, muddling up her threads.
Aren't they stunning?
That yarn is a mixture of blue-faced Leicester and silk, so it's absolutely lovely to stitch
incredible
with.
luster.
And really, that's it. Straight in, straight out. Perhaps not straight out because it's attached to somewhere else, but you get the gist. If I hold this up really close, you can see that is just a plain weave blanket. So every warp or weft simply goes under 1 over 1, and it means that there are some easy holes to follow. I can't overemphasize how simple it is to get your needle in and out, and so it's.
And what Lindsay does is sources lots of old blankets and then beautifully dyes them in tie-dye colours, and I've just seen
And
a few.
brights sometimes.
I look at that one, that's a very happy me colour, but this one, you got any more of this?
No, absolutely not. Genuinely. I know, it's nicer on the inside.
I'm trying to donk her on the head with it. That colour.
I don't have any more of that.
Oh.
Genuinely.
Oh, this?
Possibly.
Sorry.
That was the wrong side. She might at least have shown you the right side.
No, I'm showing the colour. That's beautiful.
So, this is not a sales pitch about me.
It is. It's a dual purpose.
But what I'm starting to teach are to come and make mandalas on a blanket, so that you've got the joy of producing this ancient.
Can I just put something behind
Oh,
it?
thank you, miss.
Can you see there? Yeah. It is just the geometrics of it, though, is so appealing, isn't it? And the way it. Yeah.
I think
I'll shut up.
it is. But what? So you might think, well, how on earth am I going to stitch a circle on something? But A, I'll show you how to do it, and B, we're talking organic circles here. We're not talking absolutely precise. They're circular enough. And this means that absolutely everything you do is totally unique to you, which is another delight, because
You can't go wrong.
you can't go wrong because it's coming from you. I'm happy to give, advice and suggestions and so forth, but there's absolutely nothing to say whether it's right or it's wrong, because it's yours.
So will you be making kits as well of these?
Funnily enough, yes.
Oh, that's a good one, isn't it?
And that was unprompted.
It was unprompted.
She didn't know. She probably guessed. She didn't know.
Well, no, it's just I want to buy one.
I think Lucy's now got sidetracked into other stitching.
So pretty.
Excuse me, can we show the audience
No,
there,
they're
please?
mine. Go on. Lindsay is renowned at shows for her impressive eye rolls. And I think one of the people that provokes Lindsay's eye rolls and sideways look at the sky things is yours truly. I think we have very different personalities, which is really funny watching our interaction, because I provoke so many eye rolls and it just gives me the giggles. You can tolerate me, I'm going soon.
Lucy was showing something of entirely different,
Oh,
entirely
so nice.
different, which are these are another workshop
You're coming to bring to me, aren't you?
workshop samples whereby you make your own bird-inspired
Oh,
collages with guidance, if you like, or you can go your own way.
I
But
adore
obviously,
them.
I bring everything that you need.
Fabulous, absolutely fabulous. Similar to some of my sort of scrap boxes,
Yes,
my inspiration
absolutely.
boxes.
Yes,
Um,
a little bit more concentration needed, but really, again, as much or as little as you want to put into it, you can still make amazing things simply with straight stitches.
but it's reutilising bits of lace, bits of old embroidery cloth, bits of fabric. And I think that's what's nice about the crafting community, is that certainly you and I, we can feed off each other and develop our own themes, but still come back and promote each other. And that's what, for me, creativity is. And my Locket Line community is, it's sort of promote you, and it will, supporting each other.
Reciprocal.
Sorry?
It's
Reciprocal,
It's a
exactly.
good word, I thought.
It is a very good word. Did you practice that one earlier?
No, it just sprang to me, doesn't it?
Oh, I'm so impressed.
No, but you know what it's like. If I had practiced anything, those words would have gone straight out of my head, and there was no chance
It's
of.
that thing when they do something and something that works for one person and something. Yeah, that one would have come in, would it? Instead of reciprocal, which just trotted up so beautifully.
Yes, sadly that's not always the way. I'm fiddling with samples here because there are masses
Show
of them.
that
But
one.
no, show this one.
Yeah.
This was my pearly.
Isn't that?
It was my iPad
stunning?
case, but it's actually far too big for my newer iPad.
It would
But
fit mine.
but again, if you look really closely, it's just straight stitches.
It's beautiful.
And quite a lot of buttons, admittedly. But I've also done other workshops where simply taking straight stitches but playing with them and playing with a bit of colour. I mean, obviously this is a sampler, but really, again, on blanket, there's so much possibility that you can just explore. And another advantage of blankets, said she, is that because it's so easy to stitch into, you can use virtually anything. You could use you know, sort of fingering weight knitting wools. You can use thread. You can
we both dye wool.
Yes, we both dye wool. Yeah. So this seriously, it's just a joy. And if you're thinking, well, what am I going to do with it then?
You're going to love it.
You're going to love it. You can make cushions, you can make blankets. You can actually, I have had a lady who used to buy my dyed blanket squares in order to stitch them back into blankets. They'd all been differently tie-dyed, and so she was making a big blanket again out of them.
Lovely.
In fact, she came back and bought a second lot because her son had stolen the first blanket. Show that. Oh, that's because it's a pretty colour. It's a pretty colour, but it's done on a piece of Harris tweed, which is also lovely to stitch into, and has the advantage of that you can easily see the warp and weft on it, so you can actually make straight lines without even trying.
If you want to.
Or you can go off paste.
So yeah, you can find Lindsay, as I said, you can find her as the Border Tart or Bloomining. What's your website called? Because that confuses me.
My website is called Tart's Art.
Okay, so that's 3 names. That's just greedy. Why have you got 3 names?
There are no limits.
No rules.
Not everybody appreciates the name Border Tart. I can't think why not.
Can you explain why you're called the Border Tart? You're not really a tart, I know that.
I'm anything less tart-like is difficult to imagine, and that's why I think it's entirely acceptable for me to call myself a tart. And it makes old men laugh. Our Border Tart is a tart, genuinely, for eating, tart, with a pastry base and a fruity filling, and depending on where you buy it from, maybe some icing on the top or maybe some other topping, but usually an open tart and ridiculously sweet, because we're Scots and we like overly sweet food.
Oh, saccharine sweet, just like you.
Nothing like me.
Roll your eyes again, go on.
Shan't.
So I hope you've enjoyed that.
Thank you.
I have, because I got to be cheeky to Lindsay.
You got to be cheeky to me in front of a camera.
I did, and it made me joyously happy. You can show that. Just
I can show that too. Can I?
Yes.
This is a bag which I thought I'd lost years ago. It's, as you can see, a piece of blanket with masses of colourful stitching. It's very thick embroidery cotton that I brought back from India, so it's in lovely bold colours because they're good at that. So there's another useful thing to do with a piece of blanket. Thank you.
There we go. Thank you very much. So I hope you enjoyed Lindsay's video. We always have such a laugh when we meet up. As I said in the video, Lindsay's very good at rolling her eyes, and I get my good share of eye rolls. I think my crazy and her crazy tend to spark off each other quite nicely. I will include a picture at the end of some Border Tart, because I managed to buy some when we were in Scotland. Super sweet, with icing on top, very delicious. And yeah, I thought it was funny when Lindsay was describing why she's called the Border Tart and how she's nothing like a Border Tart at all. But I thought I'd show you some of the things I'm knitting at the moment. I have a huge shawl on the go, which is going to be absolutely stunning. Again, I've got the light wrong in this video, but this is all the colours of my On the Beach Crofter's Kep, and then some. And it's designed by my lovely friend Christelle. It looks like those colours are the same, but they're not. They're all different down here. All different shades of sea colours. And you've got the beachy yellows at the top. This is designed by my friend Christelle. And we're going to be doing a collaboration with this design with a variation on it. It's going to go into lovely old shale waves in all the stripes of colour soon. It's going to be very special. And I'm going to be designing kits that go with your colour choices for your Crofter's Keps. Ideally, my plan is that you will have plenty of colours left, and what I can do is just say, right, well, you've got 4 or 5 shades of your Jameson and Smith left from your kep, you've got this much quantity left, I can help you choose the colours to add to it. So instead of having to buy all 9 shades all over again, hopefully we can make a kit for you that, you know, is custom designed for you to make use of what you already have. So maybe you only need to buy 4 more colours and your main colour, or 3, or whatever. So I want to try and do a bit of my special bespoke customer service, personal shopper style, and help you make this lovely shawl. It's going to be huge, it's going to be totally glorious. The other thing we've been working on, Helen's been busy knitting things for me, because Julie of Little Cotton Rabbits brought out the most incredible patterns just before I went on holiday, and it's for a boy and girl dog, and this is going to be a spaniel because it hasn't got its eyes yet or its nose, but the pattern by Julie, it has so many variations. You can have dogs with sticky up ears, with floppy ears, with cocked ears, with freckles, with splotchy faces, with faces like this, with plain faces, every variation of dog you can imagine. Such a clever pattern. So many pages, so I have had them booklet printed. See if I've got one handy. I haven't got one here. I've had them booklet printed, so you don't have to wipe out your whole ink content on one pattern. But there are variations for the tails, variations for the feet, the ears, the hands. Are there variations? No, there aren't variations for the feet, but there are variations for the body and the arms. Just utter brilliance. Such a lot of work has gone into these, and really beautiful dresses. This is the second dress for the dogs in a dress, with my beautiful little cable design. Helen said, please can I knit that one? So this is going to be for a version of the dogs that Helen's knitted for me, that looks a bit like my little Pip, only less fluffy. So these are going to be fantastic, and we're using, mostly going to be using the Baby Tolly cotton, which gives lovely stitch definition, and they're going to be really, really lovely. So I'm very excited about these. These hopefully will be launched next week, or they might be available for pre-order next week, because it's going to take us time to get them all put together. But we do have about 25 other Little Cotton Rabbit kits of the other designs piled up. They were nearly going to be ready before I went away, and then I just didn't get them finished in time. So expect a lot more Little Cotton Rabbit, lot more of the Little Cotton Rabbit kits in the shop this week. So the elephants and the bunnies and the bears and the mice, lions. So lots and lots going on. So I hope you're going to like them. I love them. I just think Julie's a genius. So, and then finally, the thing that I'm very excited about, this arrived just as I came back from holiday. It's a Shetland Wool Adventures journal number 2, and it is utterly gorgeous. Now, I had pre-ordered quite a large quantity. They all sold out. They all sold out before they'd even arrived. So I've just placed another order for some more, a limited number. But if you want them, go across to the shop now and grab them, because there are some fabulous designs which you can, if you go back on my Instagram feed, you'll be able to see the designs. But it's not just the designs, it's all the history that absolutely gets me. It's the articles, the history. I will show you the designs in a second. Find you another good page. There's a whole section on the origins of the Uphellier festivals on Shetland. Beautiful photography. It really is an utterly fabulous book, and it's not just a knitting book. And just take you to some more pages. There are delicious recipes. And articles. There's an article on being a nurse on Fair Isle. Just so many different things to read. It's just a wonderful, wonderful book. And if you didn't get the first journal, I also have just 3 of those coming into the shop. So this is the pattern I'm currently knitting, the Atlantic Waves, and I'm going to show you that. It's not grey, obviously. A lovely Uphelia Gansey, which has, I hadn't realised, has lovely textured stitches on the body of it. It has a sort of welt design like the Ganseys. These gorgeous mittens. And I'm going to be putting together some colour suggestions next week for the different designs. We're going to have a knit along at Locket Land and knit along with us just for a bit more community spirit, because you know that's what I like. And I'm loving the start of my slipover because it starts with the lace, and look at that. Isn't that joyful? And of course it wasn't going to be grey. I mean, have you ever seen me in grey? No, and you're not going to. But this is in my lovely new Lanark DK, and it's such a lovely proper woolly wool from Scotland. This has got flecks of yellow in. That's probably why I like it so much, and it's just a very happy, joyful colour. And my contrast, because it has a bit of Fair Isle in it, the contrast is going to be turquoise, because there's nothing sort of quiet and sensible about me at all. And I've been having quite a joke with Anne Unison, the designer, over on Instagram, with her saying that maybe my style is the new style that's going to come. Sort of bright yellow Doc Martens rolling down hills, spotty dungarees held together with wool because the clasps have gone. Yeah, I'm a real style icon, but I'm happy. Isn't that all we need? And final product placement is my fabulous wrist bag from Emma Ball with her glorious sheep. Great big pocket. This holds so much. It's got 3 little cotton rabbit animals, my shawl, my jumper in progress, and it normally has my book in it as well, all in one, you know, not hugely huge bag that you can wear on your wrist. It would be too heavy on my wrist right now, but it's a very, very useful bag, and these are in the shop as well as their smaller version as well. So that's enough of me blethering. I need a glass of wine. I'm sure it's time. I'm sure it's wine o'clock. It's wine o'clock somewhere. No, I do believe it is after 6 o'clock, and I am allowed a glass of wine. And I hope you've enjoyed it, and I really hope you enjoy Lindsay's part of the podcast. She's just such a talented dyer and crafter, and just a lovely, lovely lady. So talk to you again soon. Bye.